Okay. Thank you very much and welcome to our guests. We begin with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Williams and Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis people on this land and show respect to them today. We acknowledge our neighbors, the Wata Mohawks and the First Nations of Moose Deer, Shawniga, Wasauksing, Magnetawan, Henvey Inlet, Nipissing, and the Dokis. We are learning from our First Nation partners of their immense respect for the wisdom of their elders, their concept of family responsibilities, their willingness to share, and their very special relationship with the land. All of these values persist today, and we have the opportunity to embrace them. We have much to learn about the stewardship of our planet to ensure that the decisions we make today will take into consideration the future of our children and that of our children's children. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. We are their beneficiaries. And I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask for an approval of the agenda. Councillor Collins, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that council add a closed session matter, short-term rentals, to the agenda for reconsideration and discussion.
I believe you need a seconder to make that. Okay. Can you affirm that you voted with the majority?
Yes, I did, Mayor.
And Councillor Bazinski as the seconder, can you?
Can I confirm that I voted?
With the majority of the decision on that motion at the last meeting?
No, I did not.
Okay, is there another seconder? Councillor Getty, can you confirm your vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is an addition to the agenda, that motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the addition to the agenda for the May 1st meeting of council of a closed session to reconsider and discuss the matter of short-term rentals. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's carried.
So you need 2/3. So you need 5, 7.
Okay, can I see a show of hands again? We need 2/3 to move. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is, oh,
Five.
Terry's put his hand up. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? See none, and we move on to a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of council held April 3rd, 2023 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. And I'm pleased to welcome the delegation today from the Ontario Provincial Police, Jerry McDonald and Danielle, Sergeant Danielle, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name, Shane. So welcome to council. We're delighted to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Mayor. So just quickly, as by way of an introduction, I'm Jeremy McDonald. I'm currently the detachment commander for the West Prairie Sun OPP. I've held this position since 2019 on and off for a couple months where I was not in the role. I have worked with Seguin Township on numerous projects during the last 3 years. And if you'd like, I can provide a real quick overview of our action plan that's just come to conclusion in 2022 and maybe speak briefly on where we're going to be projecting in the next 3 years.
Sure, you have the floor.
All right. So as I indicated in our last action plan, we focused on a couple of strategies that were identified by way of the Ontario Provincial Police from our corporate command team and then passed down through our region and then to our detachments. Some of the areas of interest were our priorities in reducing victimization through both property crime and through victimization towards persons. Some of the concepts that we've applied are utilizing our current CSCU, our community street team. We have one constable who's identified within our detachment that works at reducing property crime and assisting victims of crime when it comes towards those type of offenses. We also have a crime unit that works that works alongside our frontline constables to reduce victims of crime, so violent offenses, whether that be assaults, domestic assaults, assault caused bodily harm, threats, sexual assaults, offenses of that nature. Also included in our strategic plan is obviously assisting victims of crime. So for the past 2 years, we ran a pilot project in Parry Sound where I was successful in getting grant money to work in conjunction with our local vicars. And in doing so, we identified one individual who was brought on to work in correlation with vicars and with our officers in focusing on victims of domestic violence and human trafficking. That, unfortunately, the grant has come to a conclusion, and we're looking at possibly reapplying to it and getting another 2 years with it. On the traffic side of the house, we continue to ensure that our roadways, our trail system, as well as our waterways are properly policed, and that we can reduce, obviously, collisions and occurrences in that fashion. Some of the areas that we focus on to do that are the big four. That would be the proper use of seatbelts, aggressive driving, impaired driving, and then obviously distracted driving. Our detachment area polices all those three main areas. Are obviously our waterways with Georgian Bay and a lot of our inland lakes. We have a robust marine unit that starts right around this time of year and goes into the fall. So we have 4 dedicated officers that focus on that. We have ATVs where our officers get out and they patrol the trail system, such as the Seguin Trail, which travels through your area. And then obviously with our traffic ways, we identify traffic targeted issues, and that's working in correlation with our townships and our municipalities to ensure that our police officers are going out and we are conducting enforcement in the areas that require it. We've had a couple focus patrols within Seguin Township in the last couple of years where some areas were identified where there were traffic issues, and we were able to go in and mitigate some of those pressures by ensuring that our members were out there when the actual traffic offenses were occurring. On a side note, we also are ensuring that we're working with our community partners and supporting them and ensuring that they're able to fulfill their obligations. One thing that I can speak directly to is our partnership that we have with your bylaw officers here in Seguin Township. We've had a lot of joint partnerships in some of contentious issues in the last couple of years, and that relationship is still alive and well, and we continue to work together. Where we're moving in our next action plan is we're going to look at incorporating a mobile crisis response team. So that will be one officer who has been identified to work with a community mental health worker. We currently have a project right now within our detachment where we have that set up. That's occurring 1 day a week. I'm looking at possibly getting some grants so that we can formulate a continued partnership and actually have 5 days a week with our mobile crisis response team. Some of the areas that we finalized is our police hospital transition protocol. So we do have a protocol and a memorandum of understanding in place with our local hospital to ensure that we have a transfer of care for patients or individuals who are identified in mental health crisis. When we do bring them to the hospital, that it's a seamless process and it ensures the dignity of the individuals that are being brought in. And that's pretty much it. Is there any questions from anybody?
Does council have any questions for Commander? No, I think you're doing a good job. Thank you for keeping us. Councillor Collins, you have a question. You need to turn your microphone on, Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question on budgeting and patrolling and in Seguin Township for an example. On your budget, is it like do you project a net cost for each municipality? Or is it based on the number of times you come to this municipality for traffic, for disturbances, for whatever, being called to the municipality? Because the costs on OPP costs has always been a testy subject matter, right? Because we do spend a lot of money on law enforcement and so forth.
Well, I could get into the weeds on that if you'd like, but I'd probably be here for several hours. So
Oh,
the manner in which that's identified, Councillor Collins, is because you are a non-contract location. So you pay a specific amount and that number is derived right across Ontario. So depending on how many calls for service every municipality receives, they blend it all out and then everybody pays a specific amount. On top of that, you do pay a weighted call for service. So depending on the type of call that is happening within your municipality, you will pay the average amount throughout the province as well. So what we actually have planned right now is we are going to bring somebody in from our municipal policing bureau that's going to be coming in to speak with Councillor Geddes and the next meeting that we have, CPAC meeting, and that will be laid out in a manner that he'll be able to report back to the mayor and council.
All right, thank you.
Suffice.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you. I know it's complicated.
It's
Councillor Fellner, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Sir, I remember in your presentation that you mentioned enforcement on the trail systems. Now, is that just particularly in the winter time, or would that extend to, my first question, or does that extend to all 12 months of the year?
So Perry Sound is very unique in that we do have a full. Sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
Sorry, Terry, did you add to that question?
No, my internet froze right at the end of it. So
Okay. Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So Perry Sound is very unique in that we are one of 3 detachments in the province that have a full-time Marine program. Now, in order for that to occur, we have to take members off of our frontline patrol, and then they are assigned to work in the Marine program. So we have 4 constables, 1 from each platoon that gets assigned during the summer months. Obviously, as you can understand, when we do that, we are removing officers from the front line to ensure that we do have consistent policing on our waterways, which really limits our abilities to get out there and proactively patrol some of the trail systems on all-terrain vehicles. Having said that, we are aware of that. So what we do is we link up with the Northeast Region's SAVE unit. So that's snowmobile, all-terrain, vessel response team. And we can identify specific times when you are going to have pressures within your municipalities in the summer months, and they will come down and they will do those patrols. We do have 4-wheelers that are available, or ATVs that are available within our detachment. The difficulty is allocating time for our members to get out and do those types of proactive patrols, because as everyone's aware, our population does increase significantly in the summertime, and our officers are responding to several calls for service. On the flip side of that, in the off season, in the wintertime, when we do have a whole bunch of snowmobilers come into our area, because we don't have that Marine program coming, we have the opportunity to identify officers who can go out and do proactive snowmobile patrol. So this past winter, we actually had 2 members that were assigned to a snowmobile unit, and they went out and they proactively patrolled our snowmobile trails. If I do look at the data historically, just from off the top of my head, we don't necessarily receive a lot of complaints on 4-wheelers on the trail systems that we do have in our area. Alternatively, in the winter months, we do receive a whole bunch of complaints for snowmobiles. So we have to allocate our staff accordingly to ensure that we can address some of the concerns that are being brought up by members of the public.
Yeah, okay, no, I can appreciate that. My concern is one of the major problems we have in our major recreational trail is basically trespass onto the trail by highway vehicles. We've been trying to work with the Ministry of Natural Resources to get the right regulations posted, at the certain points of the trail where it is. I'm just wondering if there are clear violations, will you respond to complaints?
So if there's a violation that falls under legislation that is enforced by the Ministry of of forestry and agriculture. What are they called? MNRF now, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, I think it's what they're called.
Mhm.
We won't get involved in those complaints unless we're asked to go and assist for it. We have similar occurrences that are happening in other townships as well. So we will rely on the proper agency to look after those initial complaints. And if there is a component to the complaint that involves the OPP, then we will become involved and we'll work with them.
Yeah, well, I would think that, I know last year we had one situation where the OPP got involved, but I mean, the problem is that nobody's gotten involved with the, I mean, these types of problems have been going on for years and nobody will engage with a complaint, right? So the general feeling is that it's Hudson's Bay rules, no rules apply. And, then all of a sudden you've got a bunch of, highway vehicles, Jeeps, pickup trucks, campers, everything under the sun, cruising down what's supposed to be a recreational trail.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like if this has been an ongoing issue, clearly it's something that I'm not aware of. You may want to bring it towards Councillor Geddes, and him and I can sit down and we can discuss it and look at the particulars of the actual complaints. And then even see if there is a legitimate complaint or if it's one person that's voicing their displeasure for something too, right?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That sounds like a good solution to me. Maybe we can collectively get our arms around this problem, figure out how to manage it going forward. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to put it into perspective, Councillor Fellner is our representative on Park to Park and
Okay.
chairing it. So it is near and dear to his heart to protect and police the trails. So the solution of working with Councillor Getty to get a specific solution is a good idea, because it has been going on at least as long as I've been sitting in this chair and probably longer.
Yeah, they're very unique situations, right? Because there are a lot of other agencies that are involved in that. And then we've got to make sure that we are looking after something that is specific to our wheelhouse and not overstepping our boundaries, right? Because ultimately you want to get the right agency in there to ensure that whatever the actions are, they're either addressed or that they can go by way of enforcement to dissuade people from doing it too.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? Nope. Thank you, Jeremy and Dominique, for
Thank you
coming.
for having me.
Keep in touch. We have a
Will
good
do.
relationship. Thanks.
Take care.
Is our next delegation on Zoom? Okay, thanks. Yep. You're excused unless you want to sit for a couple hours. So we're waiting for somebody to come in on Zoom.
There it is.
Okay. Welcome, Jacob. Can you
Thank
hear us?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. And I think most of your presentation is in the council package, but you have the floor now. Generally, we ask delegations to stick to 10 minutes. So you have the floor. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. I will be no more than 10 minutes. Just want to say good afternoon, Mayor and councillors, members of staff. Thank you for having me on today. And I'm really excited to share the results of the food cycler pilot program for Seguin Township. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Can you confirm you can see that okay?
Yes, we have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And yeah, you have it in the package as well to follow along. As I believe there are a couple new faces on council since we ran this program back last summer. I'll just give you a quick little description of who we are at Food Cycle Science. We're a Canadian company. We're based out of Ottawa here in Ontario, and we're 100% focused on providing our food waste diversion solutions using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler. 2022 was a big year for us as we were selected as finalists in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge, which is a 3-part challenge run by the Government of Canada through Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. And that challenge has given us a large amount of grant money from the federal government that's gone towards programs such as yours. So I'll also just mention that your food cycle program was made possible in part due to the federal funding, and it's one of the partnerships that's helping us hopefully win the grand prize of this food waste reduction challenge. So we'll be submitting our final report this year, and hopefully getting some more grant money to go towards these programs. So as a company, we are proud to say that as of today, Food Cycle Science is a trusted food waste solutions provider for over 80 Canadian municipal partners. I need to update the slide here as we have 73, but it's been a big year here. I think we finished off 2022 at around 40 municipal partners, and with Seguin being one of them. And so we're really happy to have our program expanding so much here. So just want to acknowledge and thank you for your willingness to trial our program back in mid 2022, and looking forward to sharing the results here with you. So to kind of recap the program here, with the support from Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge, we ran a pilot program in Seguin that included 100 participating households. The net cost to the municipality was $12,400 plus HST, and that's broken down to $100 per participating household, was subsidized from the township, and as well as the shipping cost was in there as well. The program ran from April to July of 2022, and the residents basically tracked the usage of their food waste diversion while using our in-home machines. And they completed a survey at the end of the program to provide some data and some feedback to us, which is what I am presenting back to you now. So we had some good response numbers here. So we had 91% of the 100 participants responded and filled out the survey. When asked how important greenhouse gas reduction is to them, there was a 9.2 out of 10 average response. And then when asked how important waste reduction is, there's a 9.4 out of 10. And these two questions allow us and the township to get a sense of how important reducing greenhouse gases and reducing waste in general are to your residents. When asked where their food waste went prior to using the food cycler, the majority of the residents answered at least some of their food waste went into the garbage. And a small number did say that they do compost, but not all of them did so in the winter time. And I'll just quickly add a note in here. If anyone isn't familiar exactly with what our program does, we have our in-home food recyclers, which are essentially countertop machines that go into the homes of residents, and that allows them to deal with their food waste and manage their food waste right at home without having that waste go into the waste stream or into the garbage in the first place. So it really focuses on having residents manage and take control of their food waste, and the machines turn it into a useful byproduct that they can put into their garden afterwards. So back to the results here. For the people who don't compost, a large amount of them chose not to because of concerns about pests and animals. Residents also reported some concerns with odors and maintenance of backyard composting. And these answers, they're pretty in line with a lot of the data that we've collected in our municipal programs. Food Cycler is a really great solution for these problems, as it's really easy to use, it doesn't require outdoor space, and it's odor-free. So residents reported that they use their machine an average of 4.1 cycles per week, and this is the equivalent to 213 kilograms of food waste per year per household, which then totals to 16.4 metric tons of food waste that would be diverted from the landfill per year from these 100 food cyclers in use, which then leads to the equivalent of preventing 43 metric tons of, approximately 40 metric tons of CO2 equivalent when you compare this to disposing of food waste in the landfill. So while we can get the quantitative data from the survey, like what I just presented to you there, we can also ask some questions that get valuable qualitative data as well. So when asked if the residents had increased awareness of food waste from being part of this program, and if this motivated them to waste less food, the majority said yes. We find that when people are managing their food waste at home, they become a lot more aware of how much food they're wasting in the first place. And we always say that the most effective waste diversion strategy is to just not generate any in the first place. And this awareness is something that comes with the program that's very important. And although we can't put that into numbers exactly, it is an added value that our solution provides. So when asked if residents saw any increased electricity costs during the time using the food cycler, only about 4% said yes. And then we had about 54% who weren't sure. And this typically indicates that any increased electricity costs are pretty negligible anyway. So then when asked if the township were to offer a food cycler to residents as part of a diversion program at a minimal cost or subsidized cost, do you think your friends and neighbors would participate? 73% said yes, which is great. But I'm just going to tie these numbers in with the next slide. So keeping in mind that here 27% weren't sure. We still had 84, almost 85% of residents who said they would recommend the food cycler in general based on their own experience. And we only had 3.5% who said no. The remaining 11% need more time to assess. So despite any uncertainties from the last question, the vast majority would still recommend the food cycler to others. When asked if the machine was sufficiently large enough for their daily quantity of food waste. So here we have about 38% who said yes, and then 62% wish that the machine was bigger. We usually see closer to a 50-50 split in the responses for this question, but it's data like this that from our past pilots several years ago that we got helped us release our second larger unit this January of 2023. So we now have two options for our pilot programs and for our municipal programs where residents can actually pick between the 2.5 liter unit that was implemented into your program. And we now have a 5 liter program or 5 liter machine as well that's implemented into our program. So for residents who already have the 2.5 liter device, we can suggest that they purchase a second bucket, which effectively could double the capacity and keep things clean, that they can alternate the buckets. And then the second is consider our new model, which is the Eco 5 that has the 5 liter capacity. And I'm happy to provide more information on that if requested. So when asked if residents would continue using the food cycler after this pilot, almost 98% said yes. It's pretty self-explanatory. They're going to keep using this as their food waste solution. And this level of participation far exceeds any other organic waste management solution that's out there today. For example, the Green Bin program here in Ottawa, it's a weekly curbside pickup, and we only have about 57% participation rate across the city. When we look at backyard composting, which is available to most people who have the space, it has been pretty stagnant in terms of the adoption rate over the last couple decades. So this almost 98% participation rate in a pilot program like this is really encouraging. And I think it speaks to the willingness of residents in your township to adopt this program. When asked to rate the overall pilot program experience, not just the machine, but the experience, residents gave a 4.38 out of 5-star rating, with 57% giving 5 stars. So this was great to see. And then when asked if the pilot program had been given prior to them participating, and if there was no municipal diversion program available, would you have considered purchasing a food cycler just out of your own pocket without any municipal subsidies? This kind of helps us understand the willingness of residents to pay out of pocket. And we had a very large number, about 93% of residents indicated that they would pay some amount for this to be their food waste solution. The data here shows that with almost 38% being willing to pay the $150 or less, that this price point that we have in the program seems to be effective, and quite a few residents would pay for this solution in their home. So with only 7% indicating that they wouldn't be willing to contribute financially, I think this was overall a very successful program. And then you have copies of this, but just we'd like to include some of the feedback from residents in the survey results, and it was quite positive. A lot of residents were impressed with the machines, but more importantly with the program, and they're very thankful that your government was able to bring this pilot project to Seguin. So we have a few more comments here as well, and yeah, great program and initiative. People were quite pleased with it, and I think that lines up with the results. So just to wrap up here, we have a recap of the page here. 16.4 metric tons of food waste will be diverted from your landfill per year from these 100 food cyclers, and 98% of participants are going to continue using the machine. And in terms of next steps here, we have a few options. So just to kind of close up my presentation, I will open it up to questions, but before then, I just want to say that we are quite able to adapt this program if another 50 or 100 or 200 or 300 units wanted to be brought into the community. if a larger program to tackle a larger percentage of your population's households, if any of these are of interest, we have made them happen before in other municipalities. We have a full citywide program being rolled out in Nelson, British Columbia for their 5,000 households. And we are very flexible with this program to make sure it meets your needs, your budget, and the demand from your residents. So with all that being said, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Jacob. It ties in well with our waste diversion program. And the idea of potentially expanding it, I would give direction to staff to consider it in next year's budget to see how we could go further. Do councillors have any questions for Jacob? I have one for you.
Okay.
As a user, is there any thought going into recycling the filters? Because boy, are they expensive.
Yes. So thank you for the question. Yes. So along with our new machines that we have out as well, we have refillable filters now for the FC30 machine that's in your community. So essentially what these have is, instead of having to dispose of the actual filter cartridges, that cartridge is now a refillable with a twist off cap. We also supply carbon now. So essentially residents can just, whether it's ordering from us or if the township wanted to have some stock in the township office, we now provide these refillable filters because we are really trying to close the loop on all of this and have as little waste as possible. So once the carbon is spent after 3 or 4 months of usage, that carbon can biodegrade, which is great. And then with the refillable filters, new carbon can just be poured in. And then that way we don't have that plastic that's being wasted as well.
Thank you. I think it would be incredibly useful if that information was on your website, because as a user, the only way to get filters is to go to your website and buy the existing ones that are there. There's no option to recycle. So can I suggest you include that kind of information on the Food Cycler website? It's also significantly cheaper to buy the filters from Amazon than from you, because you charge delivery and Amazon doesn't.
Okay, yes. And so we really had some growth and some growing pains with that over the past several months, where we have just about fully set up a resident portal on our website as well, where it's a link that we can share with you and your staff members, and so then residents within your program and our other municipal programs will have access to all of the accessories and filters at reduced prices, and they'll have access to the refillables. And there's a couple little deals where you team up with your neighbor or whatnot, and you can save on some shipping or get the free shipping. So we're since the program started in Seguin, we've definitely made some leaps, and so we're still finalizing the catching up along with those leaps as well. But I'll make sure that link is available to you and to all of your residents as well.
Super. Thank you. It is quite an amazing program. And we just dumped our 1 year usage into the garden, and it was less than one garbage pail for 12 months of usage.
That's fantastic to hear. Yeah, no, we love to hear that feedback, and we would love to continue the program in Seguin. So be happy to get in touch with I believe it's your staff member, and go from there and see if we can bring an expanded program.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we have a question from Councillor Adams.
I was just wondering the cost again. What would it cost for one of the units?
So for the resident, the small unit is $150 after all the subsidies, and for our new large unit, it's $300 after the subsidies. But the cost to the township is $100 per household, regardless of which machine the resident picks. So that cost will stay consistent.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much, Jacob. It's a fascinating program and ties
thank you.
into our environment first strategy. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Council will now consider the following road allowance applications. Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS 2022 0013 H for O'Connor on Whitefish Lake. Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS 2022 0017 H for Slessor on Lake Rosso. And Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS 2021 0021 F for Archer and Wrigley on Otter Lake. Have any written objections been received related to these applications?
No written objections have been received related to these applications.
Is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak to these applications? Please identify yourself by name and provide your address. That's not you? Okay, thank you. Has anyone registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation?
No one is registered to speak to these applications.
Okay, and I believe Lauren is. I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-036, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of original Shore Road Allowance application number RAS 2022 H for O'Connor is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
Yeah, I second that.
And I see Lauren here to take us through or answer any questions. Does anyone have any questions on this Shore Road Allowance? I see none. I think it's pretty easy for you, Lauren. We will simply vote. All in favor? Thank you. And that's carried. Okay. I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-037, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original Shore Road Allowance, application number RAS 2022-0017 H for Slessor, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move the motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that.
Are there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Thank you. And there's a second portion to this one. I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-038, being a bylaw to deem Lot 3 of Plan 194 pursuant to Section 50(4) of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-010-002-04400, file number D 2022-0008 H for Slessor, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that motion.
All in favor of the deeming? Thank you. And the third one. I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-035, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original Shore Road Allowance, application number RAS 2021-0021 F for Archer and Wrigley, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner? Councillor Fellner,
Yes, I'll second that.
any questions or concerns? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much, Lauren. I think you're off the hook.
Thank you, Your Worship.
That means your reports are perfect. And we move on to item 7, staff reports. I have a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for the May 1st, 2023 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins? Councillor Collins, could I have a motion?
Yes, I so move your motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor of receiving staff reports? Thank you. Okay, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt staff report number TR 2023-005, 2023 PSAB expenditures and regulation 284/09 of the Municipal Act, copy attached as Schedule A to this resolution. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Bazinski.
I second that motion.
And Michelle is here to explain the mystery if anybody has any questions. We get this every year. Nobody has
Thank
any
you, Your
questions?
Worship. Yeah, 28409 is a housekeeping issue. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
It's basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, making our municipal accounting fit with everybody else's accounting.
Yes, it makes our municipal accounting fit with our municipal financial reporting. So,
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Thank you, and that's carried. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-044, being a bylaw for establishing tax ratios, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Michelle, do you want to explain where we sit?
again, this is another housekeeping issue. We have to pass the tax ratios every year. And essentially what it is, it's the ratio that you apply to the residential rate to determine the commercial and industrial rates.
Does anybody have any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. And this is a motion that bylaw number 2023-045, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required during the year and to strike the tax rates for the year 2023, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move your motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
And Michelle, do you want to explain this one?
Absolutely. This is the culmination of all of the decisions that have been made by council in the last 5.5 months. The in-principle budget that we passed a couple months ago contemplated a 7.25 municipal tax rate increase. After various adjustments and the finalization of the year end, we were able to bring that down to 7.12% for a municipal tax rate increase. And when combined with the education rate, which is unchanged in 2023, that means that for your average ratepayer in Seguin, they will see a 5% increase in their taxes in 2023.
Here's what it is.
Thank you. And you may recall that we were aiming for something like 5.4 to 6% when we did the rough budget. So we have actually come down from our original projection to 5%. I see a question from Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, has the Finance Committee reviewed this budget?
Our CAO will review that.
It's a great question, Councillor Brzezinski. In normal years, the Finance Committee would. However, this budget was fully developed during the election cycle where the committee was not in place. So while they have historically in this circumstance, they have not participated in this complete budget package, although they were involved in the early stages of target setting.
Just a follow-up to that then. Will the township get a report back from the Finance Committee, even though it's after the fact?
I'll let you answer that, but I believe we have some very specific requests out to the Finance Committee right now.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, the Finance Committee is working through their planning and a number of specific priorities that they're working on right now. I'm happy to ask them to provide comment on this budget. However, what I would suggest is they were a part of the target setting session and supported the recommendations that exceeded the actual delivery of a 5%. So I think, we've met and exceeded the expectations of the Finance Committee prior to the election, I suppose. However, again, I'm happy to have them comment on the budget if that's something that council wishes for us to do.
Well, I just think in general, just to be able to follow the strategic plan in terms of transparency and accountability, I think that we should ask them for that.
It's part of their normal course of business when the election doesn't cancel a committee, but we can send it back to them for comment after the fact, but I'm hoping that we can pass it today.
Your Worship, if it's the will of council, we're happy to take the direction to take a resolution back to the Finance Committee. I would just need direction from all of council that that's the direction you'd like us to proceed with.
Councillor Fellner, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's important to pass the budget today myself, and the Finance Committee is well aware of what the goals were from prior years, and this is just sort of this glitch that happens every 4 years because of an election. But I have no problem getting the comment after the fact, but I don't see any point in holding up the process. So. Thank you.
Councillor Brzezinski, do you have something extra to say to what you've previously said?
Yes, and I didn't mean for it to interrupt the approval of the budget tonight. I just think it is important for the general public to know that there was an independent review of the budget. Thank you.
So I guess we need to decide as a complete council if we give direction to the CAO to take it back to the Finance Committee in addition to the specific requests they already have. Councillor Getty?
I think if the Finance Committee was involved in the pre-planning stages or the early planning stages of it, I think that there has been representation from the community. I think that it may be something that we as a council and staff can look at for the next election cycle so that we can have maybe an override for the Finance Committee so that it continues through that process, or at least a review of it. But I think it's important that we move on the budget today.
Thank you very much. Is there any, I think it's normal practice in a regular year for them to look at the beginning and the building blocks to the budget, which they have been doing this year as best they could. Is there anyone else that insists that it go back to the Finance Committee this year to change their work plan other than Councillor Brzezinski?
No.
Okay, so I will ask for call for a vote on the motion that we have before us with a 5% tax increase for the regular homeowner. All in favor? Thank you, and that is carried. Thank you, Michelle. I like it when you come back with a better number than we gave you before. Now you're on, right, Craig? This is for information, I believe, correct?
Yes.
So you have a report in front of you and Craig will speak to it about freedom of information requests.
I believe it's pretty straightforward. It's just the summary of the requests over the year, as council is the head of council has delegated that to the clerk's department for freedom of information inquiries. So if you have any questions on the report.
Are there any questions from council? Nope. Thank you very much. So that's received for information. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-041, being a bylaw to deem lots 5 and 6 NS of Maple Street on Plan 82 pursuant to section 50(4) of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll numbers 4903-008-11700 and property roll 4903-040-008-11800, file number D 2023-0002-C for Blanquier is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that motion.
Lauren, do you want to speak to this and explain it? It's a deeming bylaw, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The proposed deeming bylaw would allow for 2 abutting lots on a plan of subdivision in Orville that are in identical ownership and also under the same PIN number or property identification number under the Land Registry Office. It will allow them to merge together, and the resulting lot would be increased in size and would allow the owners to obtain a building permit for the construction of a detached garage. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that council may have.
Are there any questions from council?
Nope.
Nope. All in favor?
Good job.
Thank you. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-042, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-005-15700, application number R 2022-0033-H for Dalton, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
And I think, yes, Brady is here to answer any questions. Do council have any questions?
Yep. Oh, hang on.
Is that Councillor
Can't get my
Fellner's hand up?
There it is. Yeah, it was up. It keeps going out. Anyhow, yeah, I have a question, Brady. So in the rezoning agreement, is one of the conditions that the existing boathouse that's there presently has to be removed, you know, in order to build a new boathouse? Is that, am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah, so the boathouse is actually already removed. So on the site plan, it says to be removed, but just for clarification, it already has been removed.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm very familiar with this piece of property, and it's probably a better location for a boathouse anyhow than where it was. So thanks. I agree with your recommendation 1. So.
Thank you very much. The only thing I would point out is that in the recommendation, it's called Ross Island. On the map of Lake Joseph, it's Puffin Island. It's the same place. So I'm not sure which name is actually correct, but we should make sure we're consistent.
Yeah.
Staff can look into that.
Yeah, I don't think it'll change our vote, but it does appear in 2 different places with 2 different names.
Mhm.
All in favor? Thank you. I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-124, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-008-02000, application number R 2022-0007-H for Kunst is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move your motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that.
And I see our Director of Planning, Taylor, here to take us through what this is about.
This application came to council a month or so ago. The recommendation at that time was that it seemed to be a little bit much, and there was a request from staff, a recommendation from the staff that they scale back the proposal. They have done that. On a page 186 of your agenda, it shows what the original request was. And in some situations, it's crossed out, and then bold is what it is today. In short, the entire proposal has been dialed back a bit, and staff are now in a position to recommend support.
Does council have any questions for Taylor? Councillor Getty?
I just have one comment. I'd like to thank Taylor and his staff for working on this with Mr. Kuntz. I know it's been a difficult file, so I'll pass it on from him. Very appreciative of all the work that's gone into it.
Thank you. And it looks like there has been some significant modifications of their plans. So all in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Taylor, for working it down. So we move on to the business. And you have the Phonem program, which starts a week today in Perry Sound. It's for information. I believe we're all attending with the exception of our CAO. Are we all going? I think so. So this is for information and where we need to be. Yep. The next item is also for information. It is the information about the Founders Circle and basically an invitation if any of us would like to join. It lays out what you need to do if you want to do that. It's pretty clear. And the Township of Carling correspondence on the mega school is there again for information. You will recall that this council has written several letters as well about the mega school. I have spoken directly to our newly elected trustee who suggests in future any correspondence from parents, councils, anybody go through our trustee to make sure that all the trustees see it. I'm not sure that was happening with the previous school board. It was getting stopped at the director. So the trustees did never see anything. So Howard Wesley has said, send it to me and I'll make sure everybody gets it. And I believe it's still a bit of a contentious issue because the quotes came in above their budget. Surprise, surprise. And here, item 8D is the launch of the Regional Climate Action Plan. And it's inviting all of us that can attend to do so on May 11th, which again is kind of in the next week at the Stocky Center. It's for information. No questions. And then we have the CNIB request for what's called a letter of municipal significance. And as many of you know, CNIB is an important part of our community. The camp at Lake Joe is a significant part of our township, and we're very proud to have the national camp here. they've been pretty quiet with fundraisers and activities through COVID out of necessity. So we have a motion and a request from them that says, whereas the organizers of the Cookout with Cuddy event to be held at the CNIB Lake Joe Camp on Saturday, August 12th, 2023, have advised that they require council to designate the event as municipally significant for the organizer's application for a special occasion permit. Therefore, be it resolved that the council of the corporation does hereby support the Cookout with Cuddy event proposed by the CNIB Lake Joe Camp, and council does hereby designate the event as a municipally significant event. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Bazinski.
I second that motion.
Are there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Thank you. Does your department write this letter? Thank you. Okay. So we have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for the May 1st, 2023 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty?
So moved.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I'll second that.
All in favor of receiving the committee agendas? Thank you. And we go into council reports, and seeing as Councillor Finson was the very first to get her OGRA report in, we'll start with Ward 6.
It's been a busy month. I've had a lot of meetings. I've had maybe 3 or 4 meetings with Belvedere Heights. They're progressing well with all of their things. Everything is good there. I went to the Ontario Good Roads Association 17th to the 19th, and I have a report here, but I would just like to point out that the Smart Cities presentation was really fabulous, and I was very excited, and I was so excited to tell Tom, and Tom already had a free 6-month trial. So it was exciting. The other one that I thought was exciting was the Ontario One call. Not that it's exciting, but just the idea that you can have a dedicated locator for your developments. And I'm just thinking of the MZO lands, and that would be important information, which I will. I mean, Jason was there. I'll pass on to Jason. And just in summary, that it was the speakers are always good there. But I did have the thought, and I spoke to other counselors about it, is that maybe planning, like Taylor, maybe planning and maybe IT would have really appreciated some of the AI stuff at the Ontario Good Roads. Like, it's not just about roads, it's all about the new way of looking at things. So, and the new things that are just happening out there that would be way more exciting to somebody who understood them. Councillor Getty and I decided we didn't really understand some of them. So, but it would be really nice. And I think first person I thought of was Forrest, because he gets so excited about all this new technology. So that's my report there. I participated in Earth Day with the township. It was fabulous. I did popcorn for the day. And also I picked up garbage with some of the staff on April 21st, and April 25th. It was fun. It was lots of fun. And really, we got 9 bags, and we just went from here to the dump and back. So we have 9 bags of garbage, and they were full. We couldn't cart them anymore. So we had to leave them, and they picked them up for us on the road. So it's been a busy month, but a great month. And that's all. Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended a board meeting for DSAB last month. There wasn't much on the agenda other than the fact that we passed the budget in principle, the DSAB budget. And then, of course, I had the District of Paris Municipal Association board meeting over Zoom. And it's in our board package tonight, our council package tonight. What's on the agenda for May 1 in Sprucedale. And that's it.
I think you meant May 5th. It's this Friday.
Oh, May 5th, sorry.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. Last month, I was invited to the new pool fundraising committees. Thank you to the supporters of the quest to get 6 lanes built instead of 4. Very good affair. Lots of folks there. A significant amount of money was raised, I think, but I won't steal your thunder. And the eats were pretty good too. I always liked them where it's good eating. Following that, actually, we had a meeting of the pool management board. Things are proceeding along there as they should. Maybe a little bit slower than, but lots of things to work out. But I'm sure we will, get to the end of this thing successfully. At a park to park meeting in Orville, just going over more of the programs for this year and what we're going to try to do as far as trail improvements within Seguin Township and also within the adjoining township. And we also have our first major fundraiser back since COVID. Runs Father's Day ride to Sprucedale from the Jolly Roger. I think there's going to be a barbecue out in Sprucedale and then return. And I think the hope is to split the funds raised. I think the intention is to split the funds raised with the hospital. That's moving along and up on the website. We also had attended a meeting last week of the new Recreation Board. I think it was a pretty productive meeting. Starting to meld together now, I think. A little bit of uncertainty of some of the members of what exactly their role is as a member of this committee, but I think we're getting things straightened out and I think moving along, and there's a couple of new events planned for this year, and I can only expect to see great things from this new board. So that's all I have to report on this month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Gail mentioned, I also attended the Good Roads Conference, 16th to the 19th. On April 20th, we had a CPAC meeting. I can let councillors know we've actually reduced our billing costs for 2023 first quarter compared to 2022 by just over 5%. What has come up in the reports from the OPP is that there's been an increase in frauds in Seguin Township. I've asked them to pull all of the occurrences to see whether there's something that is being specifically targeted. The preliminary review of those 8 by Sergeant Van Erp indicates that a lot of them are online frauds, people not receiving their products that they've ordered, scam type of situations. But she's monitoring it and will give us a report at the next meeting. What we want to do is see if there's anything that's targeting specifically seniors in our area and or businesses. And if so, then we'll have to come up with some kind of a strategy to either work with the business community or some form of an education component for the seniors in the area. I also was able to attend Earth Day, and I think staff did a phenomenal job of transitioning an event that was long planned for outdoors and did a great job of bringing it indoors. And it looked like the kids were having a phenomenal time there. So, and the popcorn lady was actually not too bad. On the 25th, there was a meeting of the Rosso Nursing Station, and I'm pleased to announce that they have secured permanent funding for the summer weekend coverage now. The O'Leary Foundation has stepped up and is going to be funding full-time.
For every year or just this year?
For every year moving forward. And that's it for this report.
Thank you. Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you. In addition to the normal council meeting, I attended the special council meeting held on the 24th. And between the 24th and 30th, I had to respond to over 30 emails, texts, and telephone calls as a result of negative feedback on the results of that meeting. In addition, I had a call with respect to the Glen Burnie development, which I guess Taylor is handling now quite well, I believe. And those were my activities.
Thank you. Councillor Adams?
Council meeting. Did you hear it all? Sorry. I attended the Recreation and Culture meeting in the council chambers, and I agree with Terry. The meeting was a success. April 27th, I attended the museum meeting by Zoom. It was a very short meeting. I've had a lot of calls and emails concerning short-term rentals, and I've had a lot of calls on Horseshoe Lake, the complaints of the condition of the road. It's been ongoing. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. I drove that road today.
It's awful.
It's a mess. I think Director McLeod knows that very well. So it's on a list somewhere.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of meetings. April 4th was the Airport Commission, as well as Muskoka Watershed. And we have moved in the last week from a flood watch to a flood warning. I think we're significantly better positioned than the people down in Lake Muskoka. Many docks are underwater. And just by our measurement with a pencil line on our dock, the water went up 11 inches in the last 11 days on Lake Joe. So there are many docks underwater, and be careful out there on rivers and streams, especially with kids. I also was at the Foley Seniors Lunch and Learn. April 12th was a recreation and culture meeting, primarily focused on fundraising. And we have now hired a professional fundraiser. That was also the opening social, and it was well attended, and we raised over $30,000 that day. On the 13th was a meeting of the Seguin Business Committee here in council chambers. That committee is tackling some really significant issues. Number one for the business community here is the lack of housing for staff. So we're going to try and look at some innovative solutions for that, including possibly inviting cruise ships to stay over the winter as accommodation for staff. The 14th was the NOHFC announcement at the Stocky Center for the funding that we secured for the new roof at the arena, which is welcome. The 16th to 19th, I also was at the Good Roads meeting. The 20th was the Perry Sound Leisure and Recreation Fair at the Bobby Orr Center, which the Recreation and Culture Center was one of the organizations featured amongst 45 others. 22nd, I also was at Earth Day selling pool t-shirts. And on the 24th, I attended the West Perry Sound Economic Development. It was a facilitated discussion, which I think many of us hope morphs somehow into a strategic plan for economic development for the region. And that was also the special council meeting for the airport funding. And on the 26th, I had a fundraising committee meeting. I am going to be calling a special meeting of council to begin the kickoff of our strategic plan with Karen Weinicki, and I want to just check, the council meeting would be an all-day event. And I just want to check the availability of everybody's calendar for June 8th. Is there anybody who cannot attend on June 8th? You can't? So we have one. Can you attend on the 9th or the 16th?
Is the 8th and 9th not the Phenom Conference?
No, we're talking about the month of June, Councillor
Oh,
Bazinski.
June. Excuse me.
Councillor Getty says no to the 8th. How about the 9th or the 16th? We need to book our consultant.
The only day I'm out of the country until I arrive back late on the 14th. So I am available on the 16th of June. That would be the only date I would be available.
Just check me because sorry. Anybody else that could not do the 16th? It's a Friday.
I can't. I'm in Iceland.
Okay. The other day that I believe was an option was June 2nd.
No. June 2nd, Mayor?
Yeah, that's not
No.
good for you.
I'm out of town, 2nd and 3rd. June.
What's your suggestion, Chief Administrative Officer?
Your worship, I'll suggest that you've provided council with notice that we're going to host a special meeting, and perhaps we'll have to do some polling outside of this meeting to determine that date. So council members, maybe just stay tuned to your inboxes. We'll send around some dates and see if we can find a place where everybody can meet.
Yeah, can I suggest something like a Google poll so that everybody's travel schedule is public or whatever? I believe it's essential that we have 100% participation by council. So let's see. And Jason, I believe you want to provide a report today.
I do. Thank you, Your worship, members of council. Just a couple updates for you from the administration. Our registration for summer swim lessons is open, and community services has a full team of lifeguards and instructors, which is not proven to be an easy task in recent years. In addition, our water quality and park students are here. They're being trained and gearing up for summer 2023. Our Wednesday ball hockey has been at the Humphrey Arena has been hugely popular thanks to community volunteers who are stepping up to manage these games and help us with that programming. As you heard from some members of council, staff organized a successful Earth Day event on April 22nd, despite having to change venues on the account of Mother Nature. Lots of families and community partners came out to celebrate, and it was great to see everyone. Last Tuesday, again, several staff and members of council braved the rain and gathered up dozens of bags of garbage and recycling from right here in Humphrey Village. It continues to amaze me year after year how much people still litter. But thanks to the staff and council members who were able to join us to help clean up out there. Moving forward, a couple of big pieces that are underway. Our working group for the Rosso Memorial Hall Restoration Project is holding its first meeting with the Selected Architects ERA on this Wednesday. Our library CEO, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, and our Communications Coordinator are making progress on the strategic planning. As you just heard, we're trying to nail down some dates. Each member of council will soon receive an invitation to participate in a one-on-one meeting with our consultant, Karen Weinicki, along with the detailed work plan outlining key dates and some of the key milestones we're working towards achieving through this exercise. Family Fun Day celebrating community volunteers will be happening at the Rosso Waterfront at the end of June. Those dates will be confirmed very shortly, so stay tuned to our channels for those dates to be nailed down. And of course, as always, our Seguin Fire Services relentlessly volunteering in support of our community will be volunteering their time again to manage the barbecue at the Humphrey Schools Mayfest fundraiser event on May the 4th.
Thank you. And one thing I forgot to mention, but it is coming your way. I'm waiting for confirmation of a date from Dominique. But it is time again for council to do a barbecue for the staff. And Dominique wanted to make sure that the summer students would be there to enjoy it. So I'm waiting for the date. It'll be probably the last week of June. But all hands on deck for us to cook for staff at lunchtime when I have a date. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 3:51 PM in order to address matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before the administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local boards related to short-term rentals, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications, and again for short-term rentals. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Collins?
Second it.
All in favor? Moving into close. Thank you. Now just give us a couple minutes